This looks simple, but it isn't. You're hearing a part of my Thriller live loop cover, all live in just one take. To make this work reliably, there are a lot of things that have to be under control, musically, technically, and physically. We built through 5 skills from easy to hard. So you know exactly what to practice next for your own live looping performances. Let's go. When people start live looping, they usually start like that. Oh, I love this song. I want to loop it. But that is honestly not the right question. The question is, which part of the song actually survives repetition? Some sections feel great once, but become very boring when you loop them over and over. And that's the moment where love and repetition collide. So I look for 3 things. A song needs to be very recognizable. You need to recognize it within a few seconds. Second, the harmony stays stable. And third, it has a defined length over, let's say, 4 or maybe 8 bars. With Thriller, that leaves some options, but when you test them like this, the chorus wins every time. Other sections are strong, yes, verse or bridge, but they want to build up and resolve into something, and for a 60 or 90 seconds loop, that just doesn't work. And here is your first exercise. Find a 4 to 8 bar loop that doesn't feel boring after the 4th or 5th repetition. Once the section is chosen, the next step is trying to play everything. So instead, we need to reduce the song in layers, and these play different roles. First, we have the foundation. Just listen. If the drums disappear, or maybe the bass, the groove just collapses. Second, we have signature elements, parts people recognize instantly. For example, our synth. There's just missing something. This could be also a guitar riff or maybe some famous lead. Just think of Aha's Take on Me without its lead. It's not the same song. And third, we have some kind of character or surprise elements. In our song, this is, for example, the synth lick. Yeah, you don't miss it directly, but if we put it back in, you hear it, right? And that is the important part of these elements. You might not strictly need them, but they add tension, variety, and sometimes some excitement to the loop. So my rule is actually 2 rules. First, if muting kills recognition, it is not debatable, it's essential. And second, if muting kills the character, it might not be strictly essential, but it's still very important. And here is your second exercise. Define your layers. Foundation and signature layer are mandatory, but the character layer often breaks this kind of boring repetitiveness. Now comes the part people very often struggle with, and that is sound authenticity. For me, authenticity matters a lot. I want the sound of my covers to be really close to the original. And yeah, that takes some time in researching, in listening, and also in sound building. But there's also one very important part. Accuracy needs to serve the performance. So my process actually looks like this. I research what instruments were used, at least to the point that information exists. Luckily, there's a lot of information out there. Forums, interviews, Reddit, and of course, some YouTube videos with a lot of depth. And while I'm researching, I always listen to the sound to compare what I hear to what I read or what I listened to. And then finally, I rebuild the sound myself and try to get as closely to the original as possible. But at some point, changes stop making the loop feel better and just slow down the process. And that is my stop point. So here is your third exercise. Build a patch from scratch. Then compare it to the original or maybe a preset and stop the tweaks if you have the feeling that you do not improve the sound for your loop. Skill 4 is where live looping kind of stops being just musical and actually gets quite physical. Skill 4 is not about plugins or track counts. It is actually about how you move your hands on the keyboard under pressure. Here is what I mean. Let's look into Ableton. You see my tracks, and they are arranged the way you typically would set them up. Drums, percussion, bass, and the synths. But in my live recording, I actually had the bass not here, but here next to the synth layers. You now might ask, why is that? Let me tell you. In my arrangement, I had a part with a synth fill. And for this fill, I needed to mute the bass. But because I had 3 synth voices and just 4 pads, I needed the bass to be directly next to the synths, so I could mute it and play without searching a track under pressure, because that is actually the situation where you might make a mistake and your loop breaks. So I designed every project not just around sound, but in action order. The goal is quite simple. Reduce hand travel, reduce decision making, and make the next move more obvious. And that is your next exercise. You need to try out different action orders. Lay out your tracks in arrangement order, not just drums, bass, synth. Skill 5 is actually the hardest skill and the one nobody sees. In a short live loop cover, I often only have 1 or 2 bars for very different actions. I have to arm tracks, start recording, stop recording, unarm tracks, mute, unmute, switch sounds, change the octave, etc., etc. And if a clip starts or stops slightly late or early, it is out of sync. And that is the moment your loop is basically destroyed. That is what I call a hard fail. So I don't just practice songs, I actually practice transitions. Look, for example, here in Thriller. First, I need to play a chord in this octave because the voicing would not fit on the top octave. The next voicing needs to be below, but there are not enough keys, so I need to switch the octave -1 and jump with my hands up. If you look closely, I play a note and switch the octave at the same time with different fingers. Second, I want to mute the bass for a bar while playing chords, activating the bass again, and then again switch back the octave to repeat the whole process. That is quite complicated, so I have one tip for you. Do all these technical changes, like start-stop clips, changing the octave, etc., in a way they mime the rhythm, so you can practice them as if they were part of the song and not just actions that need to be done between the musical parts, because then it will get hectic very, very quickly. Your 5th and final exercise is pick and practice a transition in your loop. And do this until you can do it 5 times in a row without doing any mistakes. All of this is why a quick 1-minute loop looks quite simple, but actually isn't. If you tell me which step you're currently struggling with, I can go deeper in the next one. And if you want to hear all of this in action, check out the complete Thriller live loop. So thanks for watching, make more music, and bye.